side of the importance of education. We often got involved in complex debates. A case in point was the debate we had about the Carter-Reagan presidency campaigns. As 17-year-olds, we were way ahead of our time. Tiego would always prevail in those debates. Tiego was adept at unraveling complex economic, political, mathematical, scientific problems, and you name it all. He would synthesize and present solutions with his impeccable oratory skills. He was made of a rare fiber. Setswana sare, ine ile petleke ya malemela hotle. He was a polymath, and he was indeed a savant. Tiego was prolific in school debates and swept all boards when it came to debating competitions. His late brother, Kabelo, Wilo's father, and him were a dominant force on the school's debate front. KB would be the opening speaker and Tiego the closing speaker, and together they would mesmerize opposing debating teams. It was something to behold, something that could be likened to a wicket-keeper and a bowler working in sync. Academically, Tiego was exceptionally gifted and excelled at physical science. In 1980, he was one of the winners of the consolation prizes for the Science Olympiad. As part of the prize, he spent a week, the Science Week, at the Mamelodi in-service training along with other recipients from the rest of the country. Now, when we were in matric, Tiego wanted to go study chemical engineering. I was the one to discourage him. It was given the fact that chemical engineering and activism in the apartheid era simply did not go together. He applied for an engineering bursary on the Anglo-American Cadet Scheme, a scheme that was established to support promising black students through tertiary education. He did so well in the assessments that he was interviewed by both the engineering and the commercial stream panels. He landed the cadet scheme bursary to study commerce, eventually qualifying as a lawyer from Wits University. He obtained his legal qualification whilst in custody. In 1983, at the age of 21, he became the president of BSS, the Black Student Society at Wits. He went on to become the national president of AZASO, the precursor to SASCO and SANSCO. According to one of his good friends, Advocate Dalim Pofu SC, open quote, Tiego was an orator in the league of Martin Luther, an intellectual giant par excellence. He could hold a conversation knowledgeably and convincingly on any topic. In a true Tiego style, he linked up his group of friends, that is his clan from Attridgeville, with his Mamelodi group. We became one composite unit, which was the precursor to the present-day Brotherhood Social Club, to which we both belonged. That is how we connected with the likes of the late Advocate Simile Lebala, Senior Counsel, Jerry Matole, Dr. Sillo Mukondo, Bongim Timkulu, Beika Maseko, Roni Musalo, Tabiso Mahodielo, Dinki Pala, Haye Mudise, and the late Boko Molopa. To this day, the friendship remains on solid grounds with Tiego at the fulcrum. Brotherhood is chaired by Jerry, ably assisted by Roni and Sello. Benisi Tati and Mejale Dwaba are the latest additions to the 1980 cohort. Advocate Simile Libala SC and Dr. Sipiwe Maha and now Tiego have since left these shores. May their departed souls rest in peace. Now, on the 24th of September, 2011, my wife, Mapale, and I celebrated our 20th anniversary. The anniversary fell on the same day as my 48th birthday. I invited Tiego and Koki to be part of the festivities. Tiego obliged without hesitation. Little did I know that in so doing, he had to forego an annual trip with the Heritage Golf Social Club in order to be with us. He subsequently motivated to Heritage that I become a member. He just did not want to again be confronted with the same dilemma. Heritage is made up of a group of friends who are all golf enthusiasts who play together once a month. The Heritage Championship takes place during the last week of September of each year. Heritage is currently made up of 12 members out of the original 15. Zoli Kunene, Prof. Mishintle, and now TFCO have all predeceased us. It is captained by my cousin, Dr. Selepe Mutuba, and the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke is also part of Heritage. Tiego and I also belonged to another grouping, the Goblets. Goblet is captained by Davy Maboja, ably assisted by Dr. Jabu Nkosi. We always also jointly participated in the annual Jeff Mabote Invitational Golf Day. Tiego and I were the worst golfers of all the groupings by a proverbial mile. We were, as Tiego would put it, always sucking the hind teeth. Okay, on occasions he would say, "Nah, my doctor told me that my left arm is shorter than my right one." That explains my golfing deficiencies. What seems to be your problem? On occasions when Tiego would win, for more than 20 years we had, always had a standing bat based on a unique system which Tiego and I refer to as the 1-2-3 system. I'm not going to explain it, but those who know, they do know. On occasions when Tiego would win a whitewash, he would parade himself as a fisherman, a good fisherman, that's what he would say, who would catch fish, take a photo, and then return it to the water. So he would demand that I pay him, for the bet, show it off to fellow golfers, boast about the winnings before returning the money to me. Our last Goblets game together, Tiego and I played with Dr. Jabu Nkosi and Nandu Matlala, and Tiego and I shared a card. And we spent the day talking about business, about our country, about our wives and children. But the funny part is that, I have played many times with Tiego on numerous occasions, but this time around, we took a lot of photos. We took a lot of photos, prompting Dr. Nkosi to proclaim, "Hey bana, iseng o mongwe wa lena wa vaya." That was Dr. Nkosi. Why so many photos? Tiego's response was, "We've been friends for way too long. We need to cherish every moment." Tiego was a philanthropist of note. Miles Nzama and Tiego Moseneke joined hands in 2020 to build classrooms in a drive to alleviate overcrowding in our public schools. The first classrooms were handed over to Sefako Mapogo Makatu Primary School and the community of Atteridgeville by the then MEC for Education in Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lesufi. This was in February 2020. On the 21st of April 2012, almost exactly 11 years to the date of Tiego's passing, Tiego and I jointly sponsored and staged the Setsoko sa Molopa chess tournament in honor of our late friend, Boko Molopa. The tournament was a roaring success and was attended by more than 70 players, ranging from under-13s to international masters. Watu Kobese, the international master, was the eventual winner. Tiego had a giving hand, from educating children of his caddies to assisting ground staff at golf courses to paying school fees for varsity students. The list is endless. His passion for giving was matched and encouraged by Koki, who is a philanthropist in her own right. It is also common knowledge that Encha, thanks to Tiego, has put philanthropy high up on their list of priorities. But how can I forget Tiego? How can I forget him? How can I forget him? How can I forget you, Tiego, when you have given so much to so many for so long without expecting anything in return? How can I forget you when you once hobbled to my house days after you were discharged from hospital and still in braces and in pain to welcome my son to this world? Oba King was 2 days old at the time. Goki will remember that. When you would call me saying, Saul, can we have lunch for no reason? The lunch would go on well into the evening. When we used to spend time together on weekend excursions with our partners and friends on a regular basis. When we used to play together almost every Sunday when not out of town, followed by long hours at the 19th hole, proffering solutions to our everyday problems. When we used to spend weeks away, a week at a time, around the 24th of September of every year, with members of the Heritage Group. When you've always vouched for me. When we have broken bread together so many times, with Miles, Nimrod, Isaac, Baker, and Brotherhood. The lunch that you, Baker, and I had before Easter was so protracted, and debates were so heated that I promised to arrange dinner at my house after Easter to have a rerun. Unfortunately, that is no longer possible. When we've had so many duels on the golf course for more than decades, 2 decades, applying and adhering to our unique 1, 2, 3 regime. When I have a squint from a barrage of blows we both suffered at the hands of an amateur boxer on our way home from a school soccer match in 1980, my lazy left eye will be a constant reminder of our 43 years of friendship. When we have so many discussions, we've had so many discussions on family values, politics, investments, business, when you've always allowed me to tap into your abundant wisdom. I will miss the sardonic laughter that would precede many of your well-thought-through jokes. I will miss stories like the one about the fictitious Pretoria-based employer who hires everyone who walks through their doors, 24/7, and where workers would resign 3 hours into the job, and those lasting longer would end up being hospitalized. I will miss exchanging turns with you in being subjected to singing kosha, in line with the goblet golfers tradition. Goblet golfers know and understand kosha. I will miss discussions and literature we used to share about Bakwena Bamudimusana and Bakwena Bamulopiani. Your sense of family that rubbed onto some of us as if by osmosis. I will miss that. Most importantly, I'll miss your unmatched and unparalleled wisdom. To Bakwena Bamudimusana, I say, Tiego loved and adored you. Inele mukwena wabakwena. To Bramaiti and Bradi le auskabo ke re gomotsehang. To the Maipetos and Brapine, Tiego's life revolved around you. He was always ready to cancel anything in order to be with you and to attend your gatherings of whatever nature. Koki, Tiego loved and appreciated everything about you. Your radiant beauty, your beautiful brain, your impeccable cooking. You must remember your chops were legendary, you know. These things. Most importantly, friendship and fellowship. You are a perfect fit. To Didi Pako and Keke, your dad lived for you. He loved and cherished you. You have big shoes to fill, but you have shown that you are more than equal to the task. Please do not forget to embrace the serenity prayer that Ann Kabo shared with you. Mampol Kabo, the other day, shared the serenity prayer with you. You must embrace that. And to Nene, when I last played with Tiego, he never stopped singing praises of you. And the same applies to Vipelo, who he loved dearly. Now, in closing, I would like to acknowledge inputs from the following friends of Tiego: Mos Mashishi, Dwinki Pala, Advocate Dalimpofu SC, Vesi Ngumalo, Dr. Jabunkosi, Tabiso Mahodielo, Miles Nzama, David Monso, Sugi Tsweni, Roni Mosalo. Gonch, there never was and there never shall be another you. Fare thee well, my friend, till we meet again, you will be sorely missed. Robalaka Kozo, Morwa Samuel, Le Karabo, I thank you.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, leaders of political parties, Baruti, Moseneke and my Petro family, distinguished guests, I greet you. Na ke lerato Maipetlo, monna we kweketso Maipetlo, mangwana bana. I had an honor of meeting Tiego Moseneke. I called him Brati. April 1991, 32 years to date. Interestingly, I met him when we had to drive to Mafikeng for my sister's graduation. She was graduating her BCom honors. And I drove with late Bra KB and late Sister May. Then they were still girlfriend and boyfriend. In 1993, they got married with my sister. And that was a few months after we had lost our brother in a shooting accident. He took up the role of a son and a brother. He did it so well. 5 years after the fact, in 1997, we lost our father. He became our father, with no questions asked. 5 years after that, in 2002, my 3-year-old daughter lost her father in a car accident. He became Papa Tiego to my daughter. All this time, he was a father to Bra KB's daughter, Wibilo. He held our hands and he traveled the journey with us with such grace. I'd like to dedicate a poem by John O'Donoghue entitled On the Death of the Beloved. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn brightening our lives, awakening beneath the dark a further adventure of color. Your sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you enfolded in your gaze quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder at things. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart until we see your beautiful face again in that land where there is no more separation, when all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. My beautiful sister, thank you for bringing such a giant to us. He has trained us for 32 years. They say you should teach people how they should treat you. He spent 32 years training us how to treat you. 32 years is a long time. In the world of academia, spanning from kindergarten to university, 32 years you would have obtained your PhD, written some papers, did some research, enough to become a professor. So we are professors. He taught us, a teacher that he was, a servant that he was. He would always say, quote, "Rato, it's slash and break. Are you with me?" Unquote. He taught us to balance loving, respecting, and cherishing you, and knowing when to step back, to allow your inner and outer beauty to shine, to allow your immense generosity to shine, to allow your humility to shine. You are also a servant, my beautiful sister. It was easy for him to teach us that because you were his mirror image. Mozano na tla re le na le dipelo tsa go jiwa. Ke a go leboga. My children, Pelo, Didi, Pauko, Keke, yaka le tlhola le bua ka Pauko le Keke le re, we got you. I got you. Re na le lona. Abuti, Siskabo, Bramaiti, and your families, retain, re na le lona. When times get dark, please remember this Mweselo Naopela. I can't sing, but I'm gonna try. Guide me, O thy great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, lead me now and evermore. Bread of heaven, lead me now and evermore. Chafetza are a strong deliverer. Be thou still my strength and shield. Strong deliverer. Be thou still my strength and shield. Robala ka kagiso mo queen. Le boko la mokwabana. Ke a leboga.
A wife and children are always the bedrock of what creates the very same servant that we speak about. Servants are not created by luck. You don't create a servant by luck. They have to journey through a graduation process. And there are many ways to live a life, and our own servant chose to live his life through the eyes of his beautiful wife and children. And it is at this moment that I wish to invite his beautiful children, now certainly mine, and his wife to dedicate a few extracts of the impact that our servant has had in their lives. DJ, you can increase the volume a little for us? Just a little. This was one of Tiego's favorite songs.
So that song that they just played, we used to sing it in the car on road trips or on a Sunday after lunch with Daddy all the time. So I found it quite fitting for our speeches. A love letter to my dad. Dad, my first ever love. Oh, how you've broken my heart. Your exit has shattered it into infinity little pieces. I never thought it would be you who would cause me such deep agony that I have never felt before. Oh, how I wish I could embrace your long, tight hug just one more time. My darling daddy, I wish you left once you've walked me down the aisle, or perhaps when I've drawn more lessons from your incredible mind, or even if I just heard just one more joke. Oh, how I wish you could tell me you love me just one more time. My beautiful, beautiful father, who was always there, who never abandoned us, who dropped everything when needed, no matter how big or small. We are yearning for your comfort now. But Dad, you are not here. When things became difficult, you were the one who brought humor, peace, and reassurance. We desperately need you now because as a family, we are experiencing the worst pain of our lives. Oh, how I wish you could tell us it's all going to be okay just one more time. The last time I saw my father was at the NCHA offices just after having a meeting with him and Abu Sidise discussing our future plans. As I left, all I said to him, without even giving him a hug, was, "See you later, Dad." He said, "See you later at home, my angel." Since then, I've been waiting for you to come through the door. But I guess you didn't mean this home. At this home, on this physical earth, I was your angel. And now that you're at that home where we're all destined to be, you're mine. Oh, how I wish you could call me my angel just one more time. May the home that you're in now be as warm and welcoming as you. May it be filled with the aromas of Gogo's baking. May you and Ntate Mogolo be catching up on all the amazing things that you did on this earth since he left you. May he be reminding you how much he loves you. May you be sitting in a circle with all your loved ones that left you on this earth. I guess it's their turn to hear all your animated stories. Most importantly, may you be breathing easy. May you breathe the most crisp, clean, fresh air with your 100% lung capacity. The way you left us hurts me the most. It breaks my heart that in your last moments you were struggling and I was not there to help you the way you were always there for me when I struggled. It hurts, and I wish I could have been there for you, but I will not dwell on that. I will be grateful that you loved us so dearly, Dad, and that the love you gave us daily in abundance is carrying us through. Since the moment you left, I would constantly say, I wish we had a warning. But I realized throughout your time as our father, you spent every single day preparing us for this moment. You repeated that you want us to be ready to go out into that mean world once you drop dead, to keep going. Oh, how I wish we had a little more time to sharpen our spears. If any of you are familiar with boxing, you'll know that once someone gets knocked out, they have 10 seconds to get up. And quite often, we see the fighter in their disorientation rushing to get up. Dad used to tell me and the boys, take your count. Use those 10 seconds to bring yourself towards yourself and use that last second to get up. I assure you, Dad, that we will take our count. Not only that, but I promise you that you have raised fighting soldiers who are ready for that mean world with your protection from above. We are going to take this punch to the chin and stand up in our pain instead of crumble. I pray to you and the rest of our ancestors to give us the strength to keep going, the sensitivity to allow ourselves to feel every emotion, the ambition to not fill your footsteps, but to use them as a light to guide us through this dark path, the calmness to meditate through the storm, the humor to nurse our hearts, and the presence to allow the music we listen to distract us from our toughest thoughts. One of the first lyrics my dad taught me, even though he was horrible at singing and lyrics, was, I love you, Daddy. You are my hero. I love you, Daddy. Oh, Daddy, you are my superstar. I would like to end off with this. Dad used to tell us to keep moving no matter what. And once I came across a video about a month or two ago, and I found it very profound, and it reminded me quite fondly of my father. You have one responsibility today, and that is to trust in God with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. We make it a lot harder than it actually is. Just trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. The Bible goes to say that the steps of a good man are ordained by the Lord. The steps, not the standing, it says the steps. So as long as I'm constantly moving and trusting in God, I don't have to fear or worry about being in the right place at the right time. I just need to make sure that I keep on moving. Love you lots, your angel.
On Daddy's 58th birthday, he wrote a message to myself, Mommy, and my siblings in an attempt to motivate us through the hard times of the COVID pandemic. I've taken a few words that resonated with me and I hope will resonate with you too. He wrote, "That would mean I am 58 years old today. I am reasonably satisfied with the way my life has gone to date. So well, I need work no more. Balance of my life to plant commercial seeds that will give my wife and kids, my broader family, and ultimately broader society a chance to advance our lot. All I ask is for each of you to be on your feet to walk this mile with us. Be on your feet, be on your feet." The incredibly intelligent man taught me that the way to help ours is to create a sustainable, family-run and owned business which many of us can stand and thrive on. He created, he envisioned, and his are the shoulders we stand on. My dear father loved to laugh and had an incredibly rare ability to make someone laugh off the top of his head. Had I not known my dad, I would think he was a comedian to feature on the Blacks Only comedy special. He stays making us smile and laugh, and therefore his are the shoulders we stand on. Oh, my dear father, if only I could be on the golf course with you one more time and hear you say, "You know, my boy, golf is like a ballroom dance. Dance with the ball, don't kill it." Or his cry of Saka and Martinelli when Arsenal, his favorite team, played on the TV. If only you could be there when Arsenal won the league this season. My dear father, if only you could look at me again and say 2 words, Pako Zinga, and me instantly knowing you want a KFC Zinga burger. Or hear you shout, "My boyki," when I walk towards you with the burger and Steers chips to accompany it. I'd love to hear you shout, "Aha!" one more time when Mommy or Didi made a home-cooked meal for us. If only you could ask me to make you a coffee or a club sandwich, or if only you could ask me again to take a walk on the promenade. If only I could hear you sing happy birthday and you emphasize at the end, "Oh, khole, khole." If only I could learn more about empathy, about people, about the economy and business, and most importantly, about how to advance our lot. But Dad, I promise you one thing, you prepared us. You loved us and you prepared us oh so well. We will take our count. And I'm not saying it won't hurt. We are hurting, and we'll take our count, and then we will be on our feet. To my mother and siblings, my cousins, my mamanes and mamukholos, my malumes, ramukholos, rangwanes, I have this to say, and I hope this inspires a little bit of hope amongst you. as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart. I'd like to say that again. As long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well.
Tiego Moseneke, my Papa Tiego. Not Malume, not Re, Papa, meaning father. When my dad passed away at the age of 3, Papa Tiego was one of the men that became a father figure in my life. While writing this speech, I took some time to find a quote that best described Papa Tiego and the impact he had not only on my life, but many other people sitting in this hall. One that kept coming up was, any man can be a father, but it takes a special man to be a dad. I definitely think that I kept coming across this quote because Papa Tiego did not only play the role of father for many people here right now, but his love, encouragement, support, compassion, kindness, accepting and forgiving nature, and an endless list of other adjectives made him not only a father, but a dad to those same people. Papa Tiego, I miss your humor, your constant motivation to keep going, and hearing that same sentence, Nene girl, keep doing what you're doing. With that strong yet comforting eye contact I would get. Papa Tiego, your passing has been hard, but something that I was told a long time ago was someone passing can be seen as a blessing because now you will have a guardian angel to watch over you and protect you for the rest of your life. Papa Tiego, my guardian angel, I keep imagining you laughing and smiling each time I felt pain. I imagine you laughing and smiling each time I felt pain these past few days. I imagine you smiling down and telling all of us it will be okay. I now have another dad to pray to, talk to, and thank at any time and from anywhere. Papa Tiego, I know and trust that these next years are going to be heart-achingly painful without your physical presence, but your presence as our guardian angel will always be felt and be the comfort that we need in some of the hardest times. Papa Tiego, my dad, and now my guardian angel, you will sorely be missed. But as I said, that smile that was always there will be used as a pillar of strength to reproduce at every single one of your constant words of encouragement. I love you, Papa Tiego.
My loving Rangwane, my loving Rangwane, your passing has left me shattered. I feel so lost without you, as I can't seem to remember a time where you're not present in my life. School holidays, birthdays, graduations, the good times and the bad. You have always been my pillar of strength, my confidant, my mentor, my friend, and most importantly, my father. I lacked nothing.
I suppose God knew that I would lose my parents at an early age, so he decided to give me you and Mamani and many more parents. Thank you so much for your genuine and unconditional love and for always wiping my tears away. I will miss you dearly, especially our never-ending lunch dates, your warm hug, random phone calls, the dancing, the comedy shows. There was a show I couldn't attend. You frowned and asked, Pelu, who or what could be more important than your rangwane? Those are the little moments that made me feel loved and somewhat important. You're a rangwane, not only to me, but to many other nieces and nephews who have all a special kind of relationship with you. I always wondered where you had all the time, because there's so many of us, and how you remembered the finer details in our little lives. I personally think that we were your favorite. The younger generation did it for him. Our Rangane has imparted so much wisdom and love that I can confidently say that we will be just fine. We will sing to his favorite jazz, gospel, and amapiano songs. We will laugh in remembrance of his jokes. We will cry and pray the pain away. To my little brothers and sisters, if I could take the pain away, I certainly would. The journey will be long. However, I will be by your side every step of the way because at least I know the pain. It is no coincidence that we chose Solemholo's song titled Banake Nako ya me haufi. There is a part that says, Mpelechetse ka thabo le ka kgotso ke ya gae. You sang this song with so much joy. You were indeed a joyful person. The life of the party, as I would call you, an extraordinary human being, too good to be true, if I may add. May the heavens and our ancestors accept you with a warm welcome. As for us, may we find peace, knowing that you are resting comfortably so in the house of the Lord.
From 1962 to 2023, that is how long my father has lived on this earth. He lived on this earth for 60 years. The universe works in weird and mysterious ways. My grandfather also passed away at the same age as my father. And also passed away in a car accident as well. Life can be unfair and cruel at times. My father had achieved a lot in his lifetime. In my father's younger days, he was a student activist. He was a president of the Tanzania Students Organization. My father also played a crucial role in the establishment of the Strategic Dialogue Group and committed to its program. My father was also the founding chairperson of the South African Student Solidarity Foundation of Education. And this just shows how he had a passion and drive for education. He also studied at the University of Wits, and that university remembers my father as a passionate business leader who had a key role in the forefront of the struggle during apartheid. This also shows how he had love for his people, and he had this determined attitude to make sure his people lived a better life. My father also founded the law firm which was called Moseneke and Partners, which was ranked 7th in the acquisition tables in 1997 and 1998. Years later, my father decided to start and operate a family business called Encha Group. This is a family business that focuses on energy, property, technology, health, and infrastructure. This type of job has brought all of us closer as a family, and it creates a lot of jobs for people across this country. There's a lot more I can say about my father, but if I carry on talking about him, we will never leave this hall. But to end off, I would like to just say during a mourning period, it's hard to think clearly about your loved one's achievements and ambitions because your mind is all over the place. But I can say that my dad was a loving brother, a loving friend, a loving husband, and a loving father. My family knew this day would come, but we did not think it would happen so soon. He always prepared us for this day. And right now, as a Moseneke family, we are broken. We will not let his legacy die in vain. Let's not take this time to mourn the passing of my father, but let's rather take this time to celebrate his life and to celebrate the man that he was. I want to thank everyone for all their support, and us as a family really appreciate all of you guys. My cousin Nene, Bukhale, Dikgang, Boipelo, and Karabo have all lost either one parent or both. Sometimes it helps that people know what you're going through and can actually understand and relate to the pain. So once again, I appreciate everyone here today and thank you all.
Ke leboga le bomme ba Thapelo, because ke ba rata thata bomme ba Thapelo ka gore ke godisitswe ko lapeng le leng gore mme ene le mme wa Thapelo. So this look re gola ntse re lebile. In our homes there's a room, I'll talk about it just now, in a painting ya bomme ba Thapelo ba Wesela e dirilweng ke Mabatho Montsho. The actress, she also paints scenes tsa bomme ba Thapelo ba Wesela inspired by her own parents. So ke a le leboga bomme, ke a le leboga. I'm sure ko mme Maiphetlo a robetseng ko teng pelo ya gagwe e tshweu. Re leboga go menagane. Ke batla ke leboge, and I must get the order right. Ke batla go leboga Bora dira tsa gae, led ably by Malome Letsuba. Malome ra go leboga. Wa itse ke gopola ene ke tlisa dikgomo fa Malome ko wena no amogela dikgomo. Wa itse wa sempolai man. Wa sempolai Malome, wa itse wa sempolai. Wa itse kana ne he ke na ba ene ke ba roma mo gore ba tle ba tlise dikgomo. Ko pedi ke re ne ba amile, ne ba le amile ba le strong ke ithake gore o tlo re rema ka selepe. No wa re fitisa fela. Malome ke a go leboga bona. Ene motlhomo wena no na le ponelo pele o itse gore kganye o tlo e bereka bjang, o tlo fitla yang go ka go leka tšeko ke santse ke dikgapa dikgomo ka mo sakeng. Ene seng dikgomo fela, dikgolo tsa makoro man, tsa makoro ebile tsa makoro ga e sa le tsona matsatsi a kere ke di ankola. So ke a go leboga thata Malome le Bora dira tsa gae, Bora Maiphetlo. Papa loved us, and ever since I knew him, he loved us
So Bora Maipetlo are very close to our hearts. And I've only known love and respect from Papa all the years. So ke a le leboga bagaetsho ene pelo ka e tlhatswegile gore re kgonne go serolla le tlapa la Rangwane France. So ke le leboga go menagane. But tshwantse ke lebogele bo Moseneke, led ably by my brother Dikgang here, who is the patriarch of our family. Ke a go leboga Mokwena. Ke leboga tshegetso ya gago le lerato. It doesn't start now. Kore khale ke go bereka man, ke go no ke go berekile it's yeah, renke o sa ntsha ka mgontshitseng ka teng gore be re fitlefa ne go sena gore re fitlefa. So ke go leboga tota Mokwena. Pele ke gapa dikgomo malome, bo mabontlenyana ba le bantsi man ba ntshetse morago man, ba le bantsi man ba ntshetse morago man. Ba ntse ke lebella gore yaanong mo as they say kwa Activism ke re ke ska ja phoso. But at least I had a presence of mind gore no tsama o bona ko ga bo motho, tsama o bona ga bo motho akere o bone mmagwe o bone rragwe akere ge ke fitla ge ke seno bona ko ga Maipetlo ke ge le gore Koki o ba bethile batho ba le 10 knots ka gore I found a family that reflected my own family. Koki's father was so similar to my father, it's scary. Koki's mom was so similar to my mom, it is scary. No, yaanong ke le lebogela seo ka gore le mphile mosadi o montle tota. And la mona o montle man. Montle nkana la tlisa le Winnie Mandela re ba bea mo re bona gore mang ke mang. So ke a lo leboga. But on top of just these fantastic looks is that she's got a beautiful heart. She's got a beautiful heart. Ka gore motho a ka nna montle mara o fitlhele a tletse diphepheng. So she's got a beautiful heart. And then it has made life easy for us because
May I just say all protocol observed? Will that be sufficient? Ke a leboga. You know, I've often read about how grief can make people act carelessly. E botlhaswa. Can be messy. can make one lose composure. On the morning of Thursday, the 20th of April, when a police officer came to the house, not only did grief drag me through the above adjectives, it crushed my soul, it stole my breath, it increased my vocal disciples a couple of notes, and then it pulled my legs from under me. Snot was running down my nose. It had me grip strangers by shirts and drag them down with me. It was untidy. It was messy. Our 23-year-old daughter didn't dare become the warrior. She made the calls. She spoke to the officials. She drove me. She coordinated the necessary logistics, from informing family to getting her brothers and cousin home from Cape Town, assisted by our niece Lerato Motsologane and our very dear friend Darren Costa. She called her brother Sidise, her sister Dudu, who herself was in Nigeria at the time. She called her uncle, my brother Kagiso, her aunt, Mamane Lerato, and literally held the center as I was crumbling. I must tell you though, in the typical Moseneke humor, that in the midst of all that, I could hear her as I was howling, her telling our niece Lerato Motsologane, Os Lerato, gather yourself, pull yourself towards yourself, be strong for the boys. And I thought she's throwing shades at me. I was uncontrollable. Thank you, Nana. My angel. This chaos last night brought home it's not okay. All right. This chaos returned last night after Tiego's body came home. I apologize for my totally chaotic conduct on those 2 nights. I thought I held it well in between. Last night, the fugitive of grief found its way back to me. I couldn't, as a result, personally receive all the people who had lined up to hug me, to hold me, without leaving all kinds of snot and my DNA on their being. I'm so sorry. In spite of my conduct, I truly receive. I appreciate your support and I cherish all your efforts. After the news of Tiego's passing made the rounds, some family members, out of real concern for me and perhaps directed by culture, advised with absolute love and concern that I should perhaps consider sitting in the bedroom and not be so readily available to people coming and hugging me and holding me. They were concerned about my emotional and physical toll. So I had to negotiate this. So this is what I said. I said to them that people are coming from near and far from all walks of life, from our CIC Deputy President, the President himself, the business leaders, politicians, and then those that Tiego and I always called our SSD, the super special dignitaries. Those are our siblings, our family, friends, the neighborhood petrol attendants, the neighborhood supermarket tellers, the neighborhood security, the neighborhood patrol, those that have been our helpers in our home and left after 25 years. The beneficiaries of our humble rangers and cadets program, the beneficiaries of our student support programs, fellow widows and widowers that have traveled the journey that I've now started, those that have lost, being swung up and down by grief and loss, township and village ordinary folk. Some walked, some bussed, some taxied their way to our home. Some asked for lifts. Neighbors and family alike, they came in their huge numbers, day in, day out. They followed grief into our house and banished it. They filled our home with love, with support, and very often with laughter. They told in the kitchen, they told in the garden, they sang and sometimes they danced, and they deported grief in our home or out of our home. And all of them came because they knew they can. Because we have created a home where all of them can feel special. And they knew they will be appreciated. Our SSDs, the super special dignitaries, they came. Most of all, they just wanted to sit a while with me, to project their well wishes and strengths upon me in close proximity. How do I stay in the bedroom? Tiego was an epitome of love and laughter. Love and laughter in these few days took camp in our living area. And I was going to immerse myself in it and put it in packages, in multi-liter containers, because I'm aware that I will need them from today onwards. Kajalo, ke a lo leboga. Tiego was extremely critical of the manner in which female African widows are treated as recluses and lepers in their communities. I was not going to do that. I love him. I've always loved him. From the day I first met him, he made me laugh so much that my stomach literally was hurting. And then I told him at the end of that party that we had attended with friends, I'm going to marry you. I did. I was really ashamed, and I thought if my mother found out, I would deny it. But I did. I said to him, I'm going to marry you. And he looked at me and he said, I'm not a marrying type. That was 32 years ago. We've been married for 30 years. On the 7th of January this year, 2023, we went out to lunch with friends. And then we had a lovely time with Basi, Romeo, Zakes, and Patience. And then when we got home, he says to me, "How, Junju, we forgot that it's our anniversary today, 30th anniversary." And then I go, "How can we forget?" He says, "It's because we live love and have no reason to create special celebration." I would always tease him, "Marwena untoile wethu." Aria, Junju serokolo, my love. Kina le Ramakrishna, oh, des. And recently, after interacting with my cousin, Gledwin and Atima Ipeto, he changed from Ramakrishna. He called them Matwalori because they can see far. I continue to love him today and always. Tiego loved life. He lived and loved generously. He lived and loved abundantly. He lived and loved with zeal. And yet he was deeply compassionate and alive to the disadvantages of others. And at every turn of our gifts, we would decide to share. He loved to travel, to see the world, meet different people, more so in our own country, from the villages in the northwest to the suburbia of Cape Town, to go experience the burial of royalty in Venda, Pukeng, to do the same in Zimbabwe, and then to take me dancing until the morning light in Ibiza, go to be totally silly in Amsterdam, experience the nightlife in Barcelona, and absolutely go crazy in Singapore or cruise the Mediterranean. And he took our children all over the country and abroad. He loved that. He loved and respected his parents, Karabo and Sidisa Samuel. He revered and loved his brothers, Abu Dikgang and Abu Maiti, and the late Kabelo, their wives, Oskabu, recently departed Oskuli, and the late Meriki, all their children, Dudu, Sidise, the late Reabezwe, Karabo, Dikgang, Butlale, and Bipilo. He loved my siblings, Lerato and Kagiso and their children, Orenele and Lungo. Tiego loved family and was passionate about family unity. Aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces and nephews. At the center of all were his own children when they finally showed up after 6 years of us waiting. Our daughter didn't learn the twin boys, Moketsi and Unkopotse. He cherished and doted on them and guided them lovingly but firmly. He was never physical. I asked my children, when was the first experience, when did they first experience their father's anger? And all of them say in their 20s. My sister was still waiting to see what she has heard so much about him when he loses it, which was very, very rare. He was generous to a fault. A willingness to prioritize another's well-being or happiness above one's own. We established a cadet program in Atteridgeville that supports 110 young people, 100 primary school and high school children mentored by what we call 20 rangers and ranger assistants. We've got preceding rangers because they've been there, graduated, and found jobs elsewhere. We've got tutors, and we have now acquired a new music tutor for our children. Yeah, our cadets are supported socially and academically through activities such as tutoring, culture, sport, music, and recreation, debates, and educational excursions. Tiego loved this project. Saul, you stole my thunder, but I'm going to give mine. And him and Miles and my sister, Doc, have done much to support the children financially. Our efforts in Atteridgeville are a tiny drop, people. The need is as vast as the ocean itself. If any of you want to contribute to Tiego's legacy, participate in the Supreme Cadets Institute, or please set up one in your communities. There is the proposed Moseneke Scholarship at VETS, which is now managed by Lassie Sirobe. There is SASFI initiative led by the former VETS students like Firoz, Moss, Kenneth, Terry, and others who share the vision of passion for access to education for the disadvantaged. Tiego and Miles Saul funded the Supreme Cadets Institute to build the classrooms at Makhat. Just so they didn't do it on their own. We ran the project, we raised the funds from them. And we chose the 2 rooms to be named after their mother, Mae Karabo and Mae Judith Hani, Miles Nzama's mother. Now, okay, your honorable people, please hear me. We built 2 classrooms within 2 months at a budget that was absolutely reasonable. I know this is going to make me unpopular, but I look at the budget allocated to classrooms today. For 1 classroom, I could build 3. For 1 classroom that now is allocated a budget to be built in schools, we could build 3. I know because there are so many hands sometimes to be washed before you build a classroom. And if you don't wash those hands, the communities will be sent upon you to disrupt what is supposed to benefit our children. I know this is going to send me straight to the relegation zone, but I'm not in a popularity contest. Telling each other the truth. Telling each other the truth and changing the way things are done ultimately will. Many friends have made generous donations ostensibly towards Tiego's funeral. I choose to believe that what you were contributing to is to Tiego's legacy. Those funds and every cent of them are going to go to the Supreme Cadets Institute. He would have wanted that. They will be administered and accounted for by our rangers. You will see them, they are all wearing the blue and white scarves with gold. I'm not even a signatory on that account. We have processes and auditing processes in place. Our finances are audited on an annual basis, and our team of rangers are principled and full of integrity. We as patrons keep a full weekly eye on them without fail. I won't mention somebody's name, but I have to tell you this. I was wondering whether I should. So Tiego passes away on Wednesday. On Friday, a gentleman comes to me and Sidise, and he says to us, I have to tell you this, but Tiego borrowed me a significant amount of money. There was no contract. It was just a gentleman's agreement between us. I can't sit with it. We were all low-jawed. So we are grateful. I will not mention your name. I think it is your prerogative to do that, but I want to honor you. So I go into his black book. I just needed to sit down and attach with him. And this is where I was writing my speech as I was typing it. And there, smack in the middle, is a list of people. And the numbers. I have shared it with Abud, and he says, let's wait for everybody to come. Values, Incha's byline, be good. Be good. One of the courses I did when I was studying for my LLB was techniques in trial and litigation. Those who have done LLB will remember this difficult module. Driving through Ventersburg on our way from Cape Town, we come across a roadblock. The gentleman is quite clearly seeking a bribe. He's not saying it, but we are not talking to him. So he threatens us with taking us to the police station. Tiego says, please do that. We turn around, he takes us to the police station, they arrest Tiego, we apply for bail, we pay for bail. He says to me, Junjo, this is my contribution to your techniques in trial and litigation. So I sit there as he guides me. Draw up a document and ask for further particulars in respect of the video footage, the speed monitoring equipment, its model, the last date of service, the laser gun report, dates of service before and after, their compliance with prosecuting guidelines for measuring speed equipment. I mean, I went to town. Over those 3 months, we woke up at 3 a.m. to drive 348 kilometers to appear in the magistrate of Ventersburg at 7 a.m. For 3 months, 3 appearances. Every time I went there, I was his secretary. I was carrying the file with all the documents and the research that I have done. It was postponed twice, and then it was dismissed. I got a distinction in that module. And I did graduate last year, in June. He was very proud. To NCHA employees, may I tell you Tiego and Maya's favorite Kintsugi Imo philosophy, centered on acceptance and transience, imperfection and the beauty found in simplicity. It is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage with liqueur mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. It reminds us that nothing stays the same. Oftentimes, the most valuable pottery is that which has cracked and been repaired many times over. Let's do our kintsugi. Let's find the liqueur Let's mix it with the gold and silver and hold the center together. This is so for family, for friends, but more so for Encha as an enterprise. Now that Tiego is no longer physically here, we are all vulnerable. And the world knows, and the world waits. Before I go, I'm about to finish. Can I just share a few of his humorous self? You've heard it from everybody, even from himself. Tiego was also extremely self-deprecating in his humor. So it was not always about other people, a lot of it was about himself. So I go with him to a funeral. And then he had told me this story before. When we go to Hemen Ram Mutla's funeral, he says to me, Chunju, did I tell you what I'm going to say? And I said to him, no, please don't tell that story. He says, no, I won't. I mean, I wouldn't embarrass you like that. No, but I mean, you can't tell that story. So we agree. He tells me the other nice things he's going to say about Hemen. We get to the church, and he stands up and he speaks, the orator he always is. And then he says, apekes leyo. And I knew. I knew. He's going to tell the story. Oh my God, I wanted to slide down. So he tells everybody, and you know, the mood in the house is like, this man is about to show off. He says, apekatsamali dimane, kilega mukoloing, kansamwa atlatsa. He tells this to this big a crowd. And then we get into the kind, I'm like, Chunju, and then, okay, nakitla itiriman la Moseneke. Last year he goes to Atteridgeville and there's a funeral, I didn't accompany him. Hawa, Chunju ke kopa dijo, so I wake up and prepare him food. As I'm doing that, he's telling me how his day was. What happened? He says, "Ape di road manza go peli ki fitla mola bang khopela brandy ke barekela a otlel mola ke imela ke banyakela mixi e ke mela brola si wan tebela e tigo sana pe ona figa rasan." When I laugh, he says, "Marwa utshega thata bana ke ka ro dumalana le batho ba bana ke re maranga ba go nyetse ka bosina figure." Or he'd go to gym once and he'll come and says, "No, tu hakiriki, are libel, kiriki, are I want a six pack." If I don't say yes immediately, mariki karwa bila labiana uboni. He used to say that he used to say about himself, he's probably the most untalented golfer. He says, just the last one, he used to tell me that, Dali, when you guys were at vets, you could tell between the BSS students and the NUSA students. And the difference was very simple. The BSS students would never sit down when they were at a protest march. They won't sit down because they are getting ready to run. The NUSA student, Banna Petlenke, as he say, Banna Petlenke, and they were always caught by the police. In my closing, stay with me, my love. I have no doubt that you will stay with me. I will find you everywhere. In our home, in our children, in our siblings, in their children, in the streets of Atteridgeville, as we work to make education fashionable in the successes of beneficiaries of your generous legacy, but more than anywhere, my love, I will carry you in my heart. Ki le kubu lo molokwane. Ki khorula mala yo karabo moradi a sel. Ki fetjani yo Samuele. Wa ntse kgatsele le dikgang mala tse nkgopotse le kabelo. Ke motsala di dintle mo ketsi le nkgopotso o tsharolla phuka tsa mowa wa gago Mokwena. O lelane le godimo ga maru ba pele dinaledi mesong re go bone le mphatlalatsane o sedimosa lefifi e re ditikela re go bone le bo kopa dilalelo le bo selemela na le ditsalwapi masupa tsela go sa gapula o tle le mela godimo le melatladi o re supetsela pelo diphophome ka kgopolo ya moloditswina Ula.
We were always conscious that we don't want to go to jail. But we must do what we have to do and push the envelope as far as possible, except that they mustn't have sufficient grounds legally to be able to put you away. So that was the moment. So when we arrange a rally on campus and there's literally 20,000 people hanging from rooftops and buildings and so on, because Winnie Mandela is coming onto campus on its own, there's nothing unlawful about it. But then there are flags of the ANC everywhere. So as leaders of the moment, we have to open the Pandora's box, but not be caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And there was a delicate balancing at the end, but she was a good actor, in the opera to have, because she would break all and every conceivable rule. She would shout "Viva ANC" at the time, which was unheard of. She would hail Oliver Tambo and the ANC leadership. She would just break all the rules, and at that time she had already become untouchable. It was politically untenable that you could arrest her again. So the genie was out of the box, and the apartheid regime just did not know. They were just looking for any one of us who would do. So the police would be there all the time, and we had many moments. I mean, we just knew that when she was there, the day, I knew that unless I ducked at a critical moment, they were going to put me away. So we had worked out and that sort of thing. And as the Boers were coming in and infiltrating with us, I just said, "Comrades, I'm out of here." For a long time, it was ducking and diving. Of course, ultimately when they declared a state of emergency, they did not need any legal grounds to put you away. They did not need to say, "We're charging you with this crime." They could just put you away, which is what they did. I mean, literally for 2 years, I was at Sun City with Zola Kesisulu, so rest in peace, and Pusi Kanyile, Ambi Masondo, large numbers of us, Paul Mashatile, large numbers of us spend a long period of time. Chris Nobo spent 3 years there. He was the hardest hit of all of us. Obre Mokwena.
All human beings have a reason to revolt at some point or the other in their existence for a number of circumstances. that seek to oppress or to deny them of their birthright to be a free and an equal people. And I think few things irritated Tiego as much as an unequal and an unjust society. He hated it as much as all of us in the family. It runs in our veins to hate unjust and unequal environments. And he often related the story in his humor about how he had gone to the convenience store one day to go and buy whatever it is that he was buying at Groenkloof. And he happened to encounter a white gentleman who happened to be racist to him. And after this gentleman proceeded to insult Tiego, I can't remember for whatever reason, and had thrown a couple of racial slurs at Tiego in the middle of what you would call a serious scuffle, because this guy's accusing him of being all sorts of things, and he ends up throwing racial slurs at him. Tiego stopped, and he turned, and he looked into this white man's face, and he said to him, "Look at your nose. Look how big your nose is. How the hell can you be racist against me with a nose like that?" And the white gentleman proceeded to touch his nose, and then he walked away. The Honorable Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa needs no introduction. He could easily be introduced in this room as a friend, as much as a comrade to Tiego. It's an honor for me to call onto the stage the Honorable President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Paul Mashatile.
Ha ke se tlhompo go motsamaisi wa mosebetsi Dr. Sidise Moseneke. Matshidiso to my sister Koketso le bana. Matshidiso to former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, Sis Kabo, le balapa kaofela meloko le metswalle tshidisegang. President Kgalema Motlanthe and Sis Kuku Motlanthe, Premier of Gauteng, Tate Panyaza Lesufi, Archbishop Sidwell, Archbishop Makhoba, and the entire clergy, leaders of the ANC who are here present, ministers, Minister Mutsualedi, Minister Pasha, and other ministers that I may not have seen, deputy ministers, former ministers, former leaders of the UDF, veterans, leaders of political parties here present, CIC, Malema, and the others that I may not have seen, who are present here with us today, ambassadors, high commissioners, bereaved friends, ladies and gentlemen. Our hearts are broken. It is never a pleasant experience to meet under the dark cloud of sorrow and sadness because of the loss of a loved one. On the morning of the 20th of April, we were informed that Tiego, our brother, our comrade, had passed on. It was the most devastating and depressing news to process. As a result of his enormous impact on our lives, many of us still find it difficult to fathom what it would be like to go through life without this son of our land. I have known Tiego for about 40 years, and I always called him Dix, as most of us do. We served in the Transvaal United Democratic Front, and of course, at some point, our Skokets were taken away to prison. Tiego at the time was at Vets with a number of comrades that have been mentioned. Some of them are here today with us. So they came to Johannesburg prison, which we used to call Sun City. And we really spent a lot of good times there with Tiego. I'll tell you why good times. Because, you know, prison is not a nice place, we all know. But with Tiego there, we never laughed like that. In fact, most of the comrades will always want to be around Tiego, because Tiego would tell you interesting stories. You laugh and forget that you are in prison. So when I was watching him on the videos, I was saying, he is the one that I know. That's Tiego for me. He will keep you laughing all the time. And indeed, we used to sometimes forget that we're in prison. So I spent 2 years with him at Sun City with many of our comrades. But not only did we sit and chat and laugh, most of those who came from Vets, like Tiego, were studying, and most of us were studying. But there's something else we did, our Skokets, and maybe that's why now Botsarunali six-pack. We used to train a lot and exercise, and kineti mekhabaye neisiyo. Mekhabaye itla khona no. We used to exercise a lot, CIC. I don't know no to khona nada. So he was really continuing what we always do. But sometimes when I'm lazy to run, like you're saying he was, I just walk. Walking is also good. So we spent 2 years in prison, and I really came to respect his political and also business acumen. Tiego lived a life worth celebrating. He came from a tenacious generation that stood against the apartheid system. It is a generation that even post-1994 never stopped to serve. They are all as Tiego was until the end activist to the core. When Tiego was talking now on this video, he said that it was easy for the regime to put you away during the state of emergency. And all they needed to say, and I looked at my form at some point why I'm in prison, they just write, he wanted to overthrow the state with violence. And they don't have to prove that. That's it. And secondly, he belongs to a paramilitary organization associated with the ANC. So that's why we ended in prison, many of us. But to me, Tiego was not only a comrade, but became a brother in arms. As we grew, he also became an advisor and a counselor to me. Together with a handful of friends and comrades, including Comrade Mandla Nkomfe, Isaac Shongwe, Kenkeke Khan, and many others, they came together and tried to advise me on many things, especially when I raised my hands that I want to become deputy president of the ANC. They all came and surrounded me and they gave me a lot of advices. But there's something interesting that they did, all of them. They started a chat group. I don't know if that's the right word. Chat group or WhatsApp group. So we always talk on this group. And on the 16th of April at about 1734, there was a message sent by Tiego, and I want to share it with you. Very profound. Tiego writes the following, and I'm reading this message on the 16th of April. He says, "We have a wonderful story of triumph against colonial annihilation over the last 500 years. They, the dominant global military and political economic forces of the last 500 years, literally annihilated indigenous Americans, in brackets, Red Indians, and the Aborigines in the Australias and the many indigenous societies across the globe. They could have done the same to us, but 500 years of glorious struggles by many generations of our glorious peoples ensure that we are not obliterated and can ultimately determine our destiny. We need to document, write, celebrate, and make this history of triumph over essence. We must commend ourselves for surviving the dominant military and global force of the last 500 years. It is no mean feat. Our forebears have gifted us with an appreciation of this that can fortify us for the next 500 years as the new battle for global domination starts again. Full stop. So I read this message and I quoted it extensively because I want everyone to remember that we have lost a great mind, a servant of the people, a true revolutionary and a giant and a gallant freedom fighter. Someone who was forever measured both in thought and speech, as we have seen on some of the videos, with a very lucid mind. Those of us who sat in the shadow of his wisdom will never forget him for this clear intellectual inability to assess any situation to provide a lasting solution. Tiego could see over the furthest horizon and thought and planned long term. He had a mind that could synthesize the past with the present and draw historical significance and significant lessons for the future. Program Director, in the quote above, I think Tiego instructs us not to betray the cause, but rather stay the course for another 500 years. This he does because he believed and remained committed to the task of building a national democratic society, no matter how long the journey, no matter how demanding the task. He thought and dreamt in vistas that stretch over hundreds of years. A man to whom history was deeply personal and the mission of its fulfillment immediate. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, and I quote, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends inevitably towards justice." Close quotes. No one I have known embodies this truism like Tiego Moseneke did. On the same day of the 16th of April, at about 1930, in the evening, commenting on the death of Comrade Mbulelo Musi, Tiego said the following, and I quote, "The Minister of Arts and Culture and Heritage must chronicle the lives of cadres meticulously for generations to come. It is a mystery why it is not done and properly." So that's what he said in that same evening. We didn't realize as we were reading these messages that he was saying goodbye to us. We now know that he was instructing us to invest in promoting and preserving our collective memory as a people. Tiego, we are committing to do everything in our power to chronicle the lives of those who have contributed to the struggle for generations to come. The profound words of wisdom that Tiego left us with suggest that we must change the narrative about who we are as a people. Tiego reminded us that we are victors, and in us greater spirits live. Nothing shall defeat us as a people if we continue to work together. His statements show that Tiego Tix was worried about how we should renew his movement, our country, and Africa to contract or construct the world that we want. We take the wise counsel of Tiego. We are, as he suggests, setting ourselves on the path for another 500 years to renew and rebuild our country for future generations to come. Fellow mourners, dear friends of TICS, and I know there are many of you here today. I saw many of the friends as I walked in. I offer my deepest condolences to each and one of you here, friends. None of you would be here if you have not been touched in some way or the other by this gentle revolutionary giant. Most importantly, I would like to offer once again words of comfort and encouragement to our sister Koketso, to Tiego's children, and to you I say, the void that Tiego is living will be filled by the beautiful memories you have shared with him as your husband and your father. And you have already shared some of the beautiful stories with us. My brother Dikgang and the entire family, relatives, milokole metswalle, re re gomotsegang. Psalm 34 verse 18 says, "The Lord is near to the broken-hearted and save those who are crushed in spirit." We too will continue to reminisce about the life we shared with Comrade Tiego in prison, in the trenches, the underground, as well as all that we were engaged with him post-1994. I know that some of you had an opportunity to play golf with him. I haven't had that opportunity, but I'm told he was a great golfer. Dali says, no. I think let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, so I'll take what I had. We bid farewell today to this great golfer. Let me, as I conclude, say that we dare not fail him in his commitment to our people. So let's pick up the spear and continue where he left off. We have heard that Tiego was the man of the people. He was committed to assisting those who are vulnerable, poor people, not only in Pale, in Atteridgeville, but in many other places we had, even in Makado, in Limpopo. So let's pick up the spear and continue where he left. Ndula Stulo, the only way we can honor Tiego is to renew his movement that he loved and served. His movement must continue to be an instrument at the hands of the people he loved and served in order to bring about a better life for all. And this is what we talked about with Abuti Dikgang when I was at home, and he said to me, you know, Deputy President, you know, Tiego loved his movement. So, Lona, you will take it from there, but I know him, and he would do everything in making sure that this organization succeeds. To honor a man who thought and acted according to the grandest of vistas, we must think and act boldly for the long term. where shall we be as a people in the next 500 years? Will we be victors that Tiego so desperately fought for us to be? Let us think about it. Let us commit ourselves to doing what he wished us to do, because I know we can. I know we can. Amoya wa sinatla sena upumuleka khotso esafeli. Fare thee well, my brother. You will always live in our memories, but we will also continue your legacy. And that's a challenge to all of us as friends, family, relatives. But I want to particularly send this challenge to the friends. Many of them are still young, they are business people. Let's pick up that legacy of Tiego of assisting the poor. Our Skokets has spoken a lot about what they are doing in Atteridgeville and many other places. Groven, I know you are a successful businessman. So let's pick up that legacy of giving. Let me not expose them. Groven is looking at me and say, amen. Program Director, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to pay tribute to my brother. And as I conclude, I want to say, Rubala kakahiso mukwena. Kia leboha.
Excuse me, if we could just get medical assistance on my left-hand side at the back of the hall. If there are any doctors who would be able to assist us, there's an emergency on my left-hand side at the back of the hall. Somebody requires assistance. Thank you. Deputy President, thank you so much for your inspiring words. I think Tiego would have been very proud in the manner in which you described him, in the manner in which his dedication to the movement that he loved so much was paid tribute by yourselves. You will notice on your printed program that there is an error on your printed program. We have a eulogy that is supposed to be recited. I call him my father. Many of you call him the former Deputy Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court of South Africa. It is an error in the printing in the document itself. So we will have a eulogy which will be recited by the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke. Thank you.
Largely due to my father and my mother, they were in some weird way uncowed. by the show of force of the apartheid state. They were not scared of the Boers. And they took them on at every turn. And I remember my father always cut a figure of a proud African man, in spite of the fact that he lived in circumstances where, as you know, African males were dehumanized and humiliated all the time. But he tried to keep a semblance of dignity about him. So as a result, each time we went to town, it would be unusual for us to go to town to go and buy whatever supplies and come back without some skirmish between him and some Afrikaners. You know, there'll be a skirmish about all manner of things and so on. So I suppose one picked up that, you know, you don't have to lie down and accept this, even though, like I say, prior to a period like 1976 and thereabouts, and maybe a little earlier than that, the apartheid state felt as if it was in charge, and they had crushed the resistance, and they had gotten our people to accept their lot. Yeah.
Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound, burning in a hopeless stream. Hold me when you go to sleep. Keep me in the strength of your love when you depart. Keep me safe, safe and sound. Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound. Drowning in an endless sea. Take some time and stay with me.
How could any grandfather resist saying, "That's my granddaughter"? Singing as passionately as you can for your little grandfather. That's what Tiego was to her. Let me start with leadership and say, allow me to go past protocol. With all of you, I've lived a long, long life within a long struggle together. And we are privileged to have you here present. Allow me to take that shortcut because I have a few things that I'd like to say. And I'm going to turn immediately to the clergy. We are a praying people. We are a worshiping people. We read Karl Marx quite intently, as I'll talk a little about it, and about Tiego's amazing intellect. But we recognize that there are things that passeth our understanding, that go beyond human wisdom. And when those mysteries strike, like now, we know that we have to look somewhere else because there are things, Bishop Sidel Mokoti, that passeth our understanding. So I'm going to start therefore by thanking you. Look how you were with us all of this week. And how for once we felt very, very weak. And the Methodist Church of our forebears and our great forebears, you were there for us. And I'd like to acknowledge that up front before I go on with what I would like to say this morning. And all of you have ministered to our family at various times and in a way which has been with total fidelity. I also would like to greet many of you who are here present, who are with us all of this week. It was incredible love, that outpouring of support and presence at Koketso and Tiego's home. And you've seen how strong we've become, haven't you? You've seen how Mama Seneke, my little sister, could come out here and talk to you sensibly without collapsing. All the children without fading away. And this all because of all who came out to the house. And as my sister Koketso told all of you, they came from all nooks and crannies of this country. Would easily have 500 people per evening coming out to come and remember our brother. I thought I would start, though, by acknowledging the sheer pain. It hurt, it still hurts. When we all came to the house, being called from wherever we were, on that morning told that our brother had passed on, we cried, old and young, big and small, and knelt and cried. I remember distinctly my wife saying, "Oh, Mudimo, re go rapela go le kana kana." Bagolo ba rona, batsadi ba rona ba go rapela go le kana kana. Mme bokete bo bo kana kana gone ke ka lebaka lang tshwantse re bo jare ga jaanong. So I don't want to go past that too quickly. It hurts deeply. It has hurt deeply to lose Tiego. And most of you didn't make it easier. As you came to the house, you started crying yourselves. and pushed us into a relapse where we started all over again crying. But look at us now. With all the prayers, with all your support, we've emerged out of it, and I want to get out of it and get on to what I really would like to say. About Tiego, much has been said, and I'm going to avoid doing what yet has been said up to now. Having acknowledged the support, and indeed from all walks of life, people are here present, we have a tome of tributes that's been written to us. Some delivered by hand, and some indeed sent in a variety of ways from far and wide, from universities, from student movements, from young activists, from Bombeba Manyano, prayer women, from, I can go on and on and on. Koketso's young cadets, and so we've had incredible love, and we're grateful for that, and the hurt is beginning to disappear. But this is quite in line with our culture. Yabakwena, Hoplamara, Hosi Abakwena, Maserane Arbakwena, Sileling Rur. Michael Kalela Ruri, le Tocho d'hier. Bakwena Sileling Rur. Kalela Ruri, le Tocho d'hier. Milutwi le didintle. Stepping up here, Tiego's daughter, and saying we'll keep on moving. And we are moving. And we have taught our young to do so. We lost my brother's wife and buried her last weekend. And Tiego passed on within 3 days of that. As my mother would say, God has pitched a tent amongst our clan, and when that happens, we always do what our forebears have done, to mourn a little, to pray a little, and to move on. And that's really what I want to talk to you about Tiego. He was 4 months only when I went to Robben Island. So we actually did not know each other. He was a brother who I did not know because he was only 4 months. And I go away for 10 years to Robben Island. So I come back and Tiego is only 10 years, 4 months. It became a reconnection given all the gap and the time that had passed. But in no time, and I won't delay you at all, we all came to understand that we have common values that drive our family, and these translate themselves into how hardwired we were, and in determination to destroy inequality, unfairness, and racism. We're expected to do our morning chores, we had to clean the house, we had to keep the garden clean. Honesty was prime value in our family system. And the deep sense of the self, you had Tiego talk about that on the video, and about a father who chose to stand upright all the time, to insist that his dignity will be respected and protected. And wouldn't allow anybody to invade it, doesn't care who you are, not even security forces. So we grew up in an environment that says, we are part of a resistance that has been nurtured over 500 years by many, many heroes, African heroes on this continent who fought back and attempted to exterminate our people. And Tiego and I debated that so often. Amagoga, who made sure that we didn't disappear like people in North America or in the Pacifics or any other part of the world. So since Zanele, we are still there. And I'm going to come to the significance of that in a moment, Deputy President, as Tiego agonized about his movement and where it is now, starting from the passage that you read earlier. So he wouldn't have been anything but hardwired. My brother Mighty stayed in detention for months. I came back from Robben Island, and then they got into detention. Then Tiego got into detention. And my mother had to start all over again grieving, going to visit Tiego at that misnomer called Sun City, Deputy President. And there you were, and Zolaka Sisulu and other comrades who were languishing there. And Dali, the irony of this was that when Tiego grew up, he was bullied by just about any other boy around the corner. He was so lily-livered. And he made sure that he had friends who were strong, who were powerful, and who protected him, Koki. He never said this to his children, I can say it to you. But once he came to matters of struggle, he had a hard core, a deep hard core, which saw him through all the stages that you all know, which I won't repeat, which led to his activity within the UDF and ultimately within the provincial executive of the African National Congress. So it was a given that he would become part of our long struggle and that he would be he who came from Atteridgeville, which was a crucible of resistance and struggle, which formed me and which was to form him inevitably. He goes to Wits because he had breezed past his high school grades. We had Dr. Mutuba say here, he passed just about everything with distinction. He earned 3 bursaries and took 1 to go to Wits in the middle of apartheid. That's how good he was. My wife was telling the other day how, as I was studying LLB and I would wake up in the morning, and he would wake up too, and ask, and he would also, he was doing standard 4, but he'd want to study with me across the night. So he was a perfect candidate focused on identifying outcomes and producing them. In a dogged way, he would make sure that that happens. And that explains why he would walk right through from black student society right across to his present day engagement within the African National Congress, about which I'll say something in a moment. So this is a bit of a breeze, a lot of playing, and all of your comrades are here who know that he did not only fight what he calls the Boers, did you hear him? But also he played a lot at university with you, Dali, and Mos Madishi, and a good few others who are very decent fathers and husbands now, which is wonderful. He ends up in detention, and he finally studies like his brother did. He completes his law degree in detention, established a law firm, and this morning I received an amazing tribute from Mafika Sihlali about what it all meant for Tiego at that particular time, to set up a law firm and insist that it shall be large, it shall have many partners, it shall do corporate work, and it shall be a partner in the process of economic transformation of our people. He moves on. All the good things have been said, but Koki knows. He established a number of businesses, starting with the diamond business. Not everything he touched turned into gold. Over time, the business failed. He went to platinum. It didn't do that well either. But look at where we are. Is that tenacity to go through? So Encha comes at the end of a channel of efforts to try and create a business activity that is significant. And he got us there ultimately. And again, it took 20 years to establish and nurture and grow Encha to a point where, as Koketso will tell you, Encha employs over 100 people of steady jobs, of jobs that are properly remunerative and with proper fringe benefits. So he would sit here and give you a smile. I won't go to the jokes. Everybody knows about that. But at the center of that character was a hardcore was a hard revolutionary, and that's what I'd like to talk about. Tiego's distinct gift was his intellect. He was bright. He often fancied that he was brighter than me. And you won't be surprised to hear that I concede that he was brighter than me. Let me try again. So Limutuwa talked about, he had this facility to construct and deconstruct concepts, to break things apart, to see how they've been put together, and try and put them back, but in a different way, that would produce different outcomes. I'm going to tell you about the amount of time he spent talking to me about how the African National Congress ought to be deconstructed in order to be reconstructed. And Koketso will tell you, Tiego would phone me at 8 o'clock and the discussion would end at 11 o'clock. And I'm going to pick up the highlights of that because I feel just as strongly, CIC, about the fate of our people over 500 years. We are in charge of this country, and we often behave that we are victims of this country. We rule this place. And we ought to behave like rulers. If we chose to get onto a trajectory, for instance, of land justice, we have the power, we have the means to do it. And any other excuse, Deputy President, is simply not acceptable because we are in charge of this place. And why are we in charge of this place? Because the people of this country, Sizanele, have appointed the current ruling representatives to proceed with a program which our grandfather started in resistance over 500 years. That's really what Tiego was saying. And therefore, this is hardly the time to fluff around, to fluff around. He had the facility to be able to work out the steps you need in order to produce a particular outcome. He would call me, and Koketso would wait there patiently. Somehow she knew it was going to happen. And she would wait there as Tiego talks to me and says, Abuti, let's talk about renewal. Let's talk about renewal. Forget about my movement. He was quite sensitive, by the way. If you get close to his movement, then he fights back, okay? So I say, okay, let's find a neutral territory and talk about renewal. What are the key things we require in order to achieve renewal? Amen. The first of these is to look at the vision, the outcome, and whether it is still fresh and good for purpose. And the answer usually is an easier one. There is yes. We need total liberation of our people with full development and prospects that they're entitled to be able to enhance their humanity. So that goal is still in place. Then he says, well, we need the means to get to that goal. And you systematically identify all the attributes that you need in order to be able to produce that outcome. I think somebody must pay me for me to set out all those outcomes. I'm not going to say them now. Because he would agonize about them, and he would talk so often about that. One of these would be, don't we need a brain trust? Don't we need, Deputy President, people who spend all their time thinking through about how to produce an outcome of renewal? Not looking for power, not joking anything, thinking through in a serious way, in an analytical an intellectual way how, in fact, you initiate renewal. It's a specialized effort. Thinking is difficult, but it needs people who dedicate themselves to. And one of the reasons why the African National Congress came on top ultimately, it had one of the best brain trusts within the liberation history. There are people who dedicated their time and energy to think through outcomes and how to achieve them. When that dissipates in a business, in a church, anywhere else, crisis. So you need to find people who all the time spend their time thinking through what are the best things that we ought to have in order to achieve specific outcomes. In the course of this week, I talked a little about that in relation to Koketso and Tiego. And I think I've overstated it, who decide to build a home and they buy a stand, dig it out, and they built retention walls and walls. By the time they'd done that, they were broke. But the intention was unambiguous. They wanted to build a home where they can live with their children. And they did that over years until they got it right. And many of you have been to that pleasant home. That's just an example, a concrete example of being dedicated to an outcome and thinking through all the things you need in order to produce that kind of outcome. He talked to me a lot about strategic dialogue group, about its purpose, about why it is important in the life, at this time in the life of his movement, and why it might be a useful hope to be able, Deputy President, to instigate further and critical thinking about the way forward. Not because the movement is important, but because the revolution is in danger. Another decisive thing that was part of his thinking: movements are important in their own way, but the revolution more important. In other words, those outcomes, those good social and political economic outcomes that favor the largest part of the population. And how do we have those achieved? And he thought that being part of the specific dialoguing might be able to inure to the benefit of the movement, which he so dearly loved and cherished. And about this morning, I wake up and I get one of those letters that Comrade President Becky writes overnight. Says, Zanele, were you there or were you rather resting? And he pays tribute to Tiego and alludes to the point that I seek to make now. He says several things about the imminent contribution to the struggle that Tiego has made. And he continues, we are very pleased and greatly encouraged that Tiego and others of his generation, and many of you are here, stayed loyal to the commitment they had made in their youthful years and remained deeply engaged as professionals in the continuing struggle for the fundamental transformation of our country. Then the president continues, it is therefore no surprise that he belonged to the organization which encapsulates and lives according to that principal commitment, and that is the Strategic Dialogue Group. As you know so well, our country has the greatest need for patriots of the caliber of Tiego Moseneke to help extricate it from the deep crisis in which it is immersed. Comrade Dikgang, here I speak of principled people, of unquestioned honesty and integrity, as Tiego was. And it was still and continued to be his hope that he'll be able to push and move his movement to that point where their level of integrity and commitment and strategic vision, which is necessary in order to be able to reach outcomes, will be enhanced and contributed to significantly. I am coming to the end of what I really wanted to say about my brother. And before I do so, I would like to say a word or two about the giving part of him. He has made many gifts to many students. He has given ample bursaries. He and Koketso, all their lives, they've been constructing, creating opportunities and moments, starting with the family. In our family, we catch each other's backs. We make sure. No children in-house struggle ever. We make sure it doesn't happen, period. But beyond that, I thought it would be appropriate, I think, Muruti. Ensha gets approached, and me, by the church, that they're constructing a seminary in Pietermaritzburg. We're not going to speak numbers, but we certainly made quite a substantial contribution. And then Ensha was a much younger business. And it is with total joy that every time we walk up onto that seminary, we can see the Reverend Samuel Moseneke lecture hall. That sits very central to the Methodist seminary. So he had that incredible connection between hard-nosed business work and spirituality. He understood what I often say, and Koketso and them have heard me say often, the value of money, surely, is expressed best by the happiness and the support it's able to create. Otherwise, it's a number of zeros. And he understood that in all of this. So he was this complex human being with multiple contradictions, who made jokes every moment he could, but who prayed, who supported the cause of prayer and worship, who supported the struggle and his movement that has been member of for 30 years, if not more, 40 years, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to mention that he was a key mover and taker to make that kind of contribution. And we stay very deeply proud. The second thing I would like to say is that we have ample tributes which are written. And I use this moment to say we are going to write a book about Tiego. If you don't come along, those who feel they are his comrades and write contributory pieces, I know it will fall on me, his big elder brother, to record this remarkable life of my brother and indeed comrade. So I invite you, if the spirit moves you and you want to pen 5, 10 pages, then we'll have a compilation. In order, Deputy President, to honor his complaint all the time. Why does the movement not document the lives of cadres? And I have several others which have come in, which says to him, Hamba Mkonto Westize. Quite several which have been sent in. I want to compile those together with those who might want to write about Tiego. It doesn't have to be about politics only. And we will have a memorial volume, and we hope to be able to see it out very soon. You'll notice that I have not gone to the family. We've spent the whole week together. They've displayed their strength in front of you. We are overcoming our pain. And your presence here has made sure that we overcome that pain even better. Love abounds where we come from, and love will keep on flowing. Sharing is normal where we come from, and it's going to continue happening for as long as we are here and we are at Clan. Ke a le leboga bakwena. En ra itse gore modimo wa kagiso le lerato o na le rone. En ra itse gore o tonna a tshela morwarre, as we have tried to portray and make him speak himself. We hope to make him continue speaking almost forever. But in doing so, we're going to make sure that we create multiple legacies. And we already have a number of suggestions. But at the heart of that would be a book that chronicles a remarkable life. Long I could have been, 60 years is enough to do a lot of great things, as Tiego has done. Ke a leboga. God bless.
If I can ask the congregation to stand on its feet, please. A life lived so magnificently defies description by mere words. A life pursued so fulsomely, passionately, and without borders should not and cannot be crammed or crowded into a printed page. How do we, within the four corners of a page, do justice to a life that is lived mostly in intense pursuit of liberation and the wellness of fellow patriots? It may be more appropriate simply to record that ditiro tsa gagwe di a itlhalosa, or as they say in isiTsonga, mintiro ya bulabula. Even so, custom requires us to offer a succinct recordal of his life. Tiego Moseneke was born 8 November 1962 in Atteridgeville, Tshwane. He is the fifth son and last born of Karabo Mabel Moseneke and Samuel Sedise Moseneke, who were both school teachers. Ahead of him were brothers Dikgang, Malatse, Onkgopotse, and Kabelo. Onkgopotse and Kabelo are in eternal rest. Tiego attended primary schooling in his own village of Peli and high school in Mamelodi. His school grades bristled with distinctions and ensured an easy entry into Wits University with a scholarship for a BCom degree and later the law degree. His stay at Wits was of keen and remarkable activism at a time when the grip of racial oppression and colonialism posed a real threat to life and limb of freedom fighters. Death and long-term detention were real risks, as many activists died in detention. Even so, in 1983, he rose through the ranks to become the president of the Black Student Society, BSS. Within and outside the crucible of BSS, he led student activism with a notable collective of student activists, including David Johnson, Feroz Kachalia, Mos Mashishi, Chris Ngobo, Dalim Pofu, Themba Maseko, Terry Tselane, and the late Nepo Kekana. BSS was banned. Soon his resistance to apartheid morphed into active membership and participation in the United Democratic Front, which, if truth be told, had a seminal part in rendering the apartheid state ungovernable.
Tiego's activism came at a significant cost to him and family. He was arrested several times and had his face frequently smashed by security police. He was detained under emergency regulations for 2 years continuously. Our mother had to visit prison again after Dikgang's release from prison and Malatse's release from emergency regulation detention. Whilst in detention, Tiego had frequent asthma attacks and was admitted to Hillbrow Hospital under police guard. None of that shook his conviction to destroy the apartheid regime. He completed his university law degree whilst in detention. At the dawn of democracy, he became an office bearer in the Gauteng Provincial Executive of the African National Congress, and thereafter served in many other multiple senior roles within the ANC. It is indeed no exaggeration to state that for 40 years of his life, from his university youth to now, he stayed remarkably steadfast and faithful towards achieving true liberation of country and its people, despite the significant present-day challenges facing his political home. Tiego set up a successful and highly rated law practice. Soon thereafter, he entered diamond mining and processing through New Diamond Corporation, followed by an entry into platinum mining. In continued search for newness, innovation, and commercial disruption, he founded Encha Group. Over 2 decades up to his untimely demise, he created and chaired a dynamic group of companies and steered most internal corporate entities to remarkable success and value creation while creating lasting jobs. Virtually all our adult children and over 100 other employees work at Encha Group thanks to Tiego's dedicated tutelage. As he met his tragic demise, he was again in pursuit of innovation and newness as he announced a dynamic cloud processing and storage capability division of Encha Group. Encha Group offered ample scholarships to young people in law and business. Tiego made significant corporate donations, and one of the significant ones was towards the construction of the Seth Mukitimi Methodist Seminary, where Methodist clergy are trained and formed, and this he did in honor of our worshiping forebears. Family was everything to Tiego. He and Koketso were openly and admirably in love for over 30 years. They are blessed with 3 lovely children, Didintle, Moketsi, and Pako. He assumed a significant parental role towards his wife's family, Bahamai Pedro. As for all of us in the Moseneke clan, we know how much he loved us, how much he cared, how much he made us all smile and laugh, how much he shared with us his financial success, but above all, how he, though youngest in our family, bound us together. He is simply irreplaceable. Re a leboga Mokwena. O re tlogetse re sa letile. Go a galaka, go botlhoko, mme go siame. Leboko la molokwane ke setlogolo sa Bakwena. Ke Mokwena wa Modimo sana nonyana. Ke le kobo la molokwane. Ke Mokwena morwa motswasele. Kgomo tsa bo ga di gangwa di ntsha mašwi. Kwena ya mariba magolo ga e letswe ke batho ya sutsa. Robala ka kagiso Mokwena.
Houston, do you copy? Houston, do you copy? This is your first officer speaking from flight deck Encha 234. Do you copy? We have reached our cruising altitude of 34,000 feet and we are heading in a northerly direction. The weather en route is clear. There is a slight bit of turbulence along the route. Houston, do you copy? But unfortunately, Houston, we have lost our captain. And we are still thousands of miles before we reach our destination. I ask everybody to remain calm and to fasten your seat belts. Our journey is far from finished. I thank you.
What is love without the giving? Without love, you're only living an imitation, an imitation of life. Skies above in flaming color. Without love, there's so much duller. A false creation, an imitation of life. Would the song of the lark be just as sweet? Would the moon be as bright above? Every day would be gray and incomplete without the one lips that kiss and tell you clearly. Without this, our lives are merely an imitation, an imitation. What is love without the giving? Without love, you're only living an imitation, an imitation of life. Skies above in flaming color. Without love, there's so much duller. A false creation, an imitation of life. Would the song of the lark be just as sweet? Would Will the moon be as bright above? Every day would be gray and incomplete without.
What's the date today?
Starting Angel Kelly.
What's the date today?
What's
the, look at the camera. What's the date today?
It is Sunday, the 3rd of April, 2022.
Hey.
Ke buisa lefoko la matshediso jaaka le kwadilwe mo bukeng ya ga moefangedi Johanne kgaolo ke ya 11 mme re buisa ga mmogo tema ya 17 re miseka ya 20 a metšwe the Gospel according to St. John chapter 11. We read together verses 17 up to 27. Me e buise ga jana. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. I know, Martha said, that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and life, and those who believe in me, even though they die, they will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world. Friends, this is the word of God for the people of God. Amen. I invite to the podium the preacher of the day, the Reverend Dr. Siduel Mokotu, and I invite you to sing. On Wednesday, I struggled with you singing, and I hope today will be better. It's a popular hymn known by many. Liza lisitinga lakho Thixo Nkosi enyaniswa. 116 in our Xhosa hymnals in the Methodist Church, but a very popular song. Machoro. Liza lisitinga lakho Thixo Nkosi enyaniswa zonke inhlangazo mazezo zuze ose usindi iso amatolo kwelele zwema makagobe phambi zithi zonkelwe emezelo pelotumo la
kusangawe kusangawe ukunwa bange yeziphe piti eze etu yonake elehimi bona isela kowe utole liso onoza ungayitobe boya akho lozelo lofusapo Pati yalango sisi singate imfundi sose sila ko uze usivuse sive for the last time yalankosi singadeli inyaniso wewe yalankosi kosi singadeli imfundi sezwila So, Bakwena, here we are once again. We have journeyed with you, and when I was asked to coordinate the prayer services during the week, I brought and availed to you clergy persons who have journeyed with your family over a period of time in Atteridgeville and in Mabopane and at the Glen Methodist Church. Our responsibility remains Holitsidisa. English does not help us much in understanding the concept ya go tshedisa. Interpreters bar to comfort. But some of you will know the challenges of infrastructure that we have in our country, where in some places have been scandalous and shameful video clips of people and children who need to cross rivers and cannot be helped. And you'll find at those rivers mostly men who have volunteered to carry those who need to go to the other side of the river. There is a clip where somewhere in the Eastern Cape they put people in a drum and close it. And these men are brave enough to get into the river and roll these people over. Sesotho ke sona se re thusang. Tiro eo ke yona ya go tshedisa. Go tsaya batho ba ba leng ka mo le ba rwala le ba tshedisa. Noka ya lefu e ka nna e itibileng thata. The fact that we have come here before does not mean you know how to cross the river of death. And so we are here together with your friends, family friends, with your colleagues, with your comrades, and our responsibility ke go le tshedisa. And those who are being carried over, all that they do is to give permission to those who are experts in carrying those who need to go over. And so allow us, as we continue to carry you over. We have done it before. Papa Samuel ka Mama Karabo, we were in Captain Park with KB. We have done it with Sis May Refitile. We're there, Ka Bo. We have done it, Ka Sis Leah. We continue to be here to walk this with you. Come, let us pray. Modimo ya matla go hlentata wa rona ya lehodimong hoseng kapa motsheare wa letsatsi la ka jeno ama molomo wa ka ka leshala le hlenneng mme bule dipelo tsa rona mmoho jalo ka phutheo re utlwe efangedi ya hao ditaba tse molemo mme re phele go ya ka tsona ka Kriste Jesu morena wa rona. Amen. It is not a coincidence. As I stand here, I seek to intersect a number of streams about Tiego's life. So I stand here as a preacher, asthmatic. I stand here as a preacher, a Methodist. He was my congregant when I was in Atteridgeville. He was at BSS at Wits, I was at BSM at Rhodes. We were student leaders, whether it is at TISCO or, and so I also belong to that hectic group of the Azaso Sansco Newsas group. That is so hectic that by the evening, you'll find almost 400 messages of people during the day who had been debating. There is this comrade Confi, who is the stirrer amongst many, and comrade Dikeledi. And so even the process of the SDG gets birthed in that group where Billy Ramkhopa was given the responsibility to go and hold together. And so there is this tradition of activism and struggle, but there is also the tradition that the former Chief Justice spoke about of his family spirituality, and these have to intersect. For a strange reason, I've chosen a funny title for today's message. Nobody titles a sermon like this. Long live the spirit of Tiego Moseneke. And then I come here and I find here projected, it's not by coincidence, his life lives on. Because all that we are seeking to do, it is to take this which was meant to be a slogan, long live the spirit, is for me more than an empty slogan. It is for me a powerful political, liberative, spiritual message. It is the intersection of our Christian faith and political spiritualities. And so for those who are here and would want to return and say, let's make it easy. I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die,
they will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. And so we gather here, brought together by this theme about life. And we ask that elusive and yet fundamental question: what is life? This is the question, this is the one question that the whole of humanity has struggled with for ages. Philosophers have been wrestling with this question in different ways. They continue to investigate what is life and what is non-life. What are living and non-living things? Biologists and pathologists have limited life to birth, to the growth and mortality. They measure life and limit between our birth and our death certificates. Ethicists continue to grapple with when does life and when does it start and when does it end. And so there are questions about abortion relating to when does life start. There are debates about, and continues to be, even though they seem to have subsided, about what used to be test tube babies. There have been questions about euthanasia, asking the fundamental question: what is the essence of life? There have been struggles about those who are in comas, who are said to be brain dead, and when do we terminate the life support machines? Artificial intelligence has revived and sharpened and deepened the question around life. William Shakespeare wrote of it in Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. And this is what William Shakespeare says: life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that threads his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And so if I was a lawyer, I would stand up and I say, learned friends, I submit and I beg to differ with William Shakespeare, especially when the exhibit around this matter is around the life of Tiego Moseneke. Maybe outside this court, there are those that we could look at and say their lives are a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Not so with Tiego Moseneke. Theologians, on the other hand, have considered and grappled with the essence of life. Some years ago, the World Council of Churches had a project on the theology of life. I remember our own former Vice Chancellor of Stellenbosch, Professor Russell Boltmer, was one of the leading project leaders. In their work, they went beyond just measuring the length and even the quality of life, but focus on the meaning of life. They sought to establish the spirituality of life that transcends, as Abuti Mukwena was saying here, the seen and the unseen, the material and the non-material. Later on, the Ecumenical Association of Third World Theologians met in Kenya in 1992 and released a statement with the title, "The Spirituality of the Third World, a Cry of life. They also published a book with the same title. Contributors included our own Reverend Frank Chikane, our own Professor Takatso Mofokeng. Their statement focused on life in relation to the marginalized of society. These who Tiego Moseneke made his focus. Liberation and human rights activists engage in drawing our attention to this question and seek to make us respond not from the rhetoric, but from truth. And they asked at that conference, is the life of the poor of the same value as that of the rich? The cry of life, they said, was about bread, was about rice, was about water, land, housing, jobs, and health care. The things that we are told Comrade Tiego died wrestling with. The story of Lazarus that we have read this morning provides for us a case study on this matter of life and death from a spiritual perspective. Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus, had to face in a particular way the matter of life when they sent an SOS invitation to Jesus Christ to come over to their home after their brother Lazarus had died. The biologists and pathologists of that time would have already have issued a death certificate declaring their brother Lazarus dead. Jesus responds to the invitation, comes to the home of his friends in the same manner that we have come to you, Bakwena. Jesus Christ is a true and dependable friend who has the time, who has the heart to visit home of friends, not only when there are parties and things are going well, but also when the chips are down. He visits those who, like you, are mourning. He visits because he had declared in his Beatitudes before, blessed are those who mourn, because they will be comforted. Jesus, who had missed the initial call to visit Lazarus when he was sick, has now come post the moment of need and at a time when his beloved friend was already dead. Martha, the sister to the deceased, protested and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. This is the protest that I believe believers as they are, Bakwena, are wrestling with. This is a protest that says, Lord, if you had shown up and intervened when that asthma attack happened, Tiego would have been here. My beloved husband would have been here. Our sibling, our father, our brother and uncle would have been here. Jesus responds with words that make no sense. And again, as you said, beyond the science and beyond, there are things that are mystery, that are beyond us. He responds to those who are mourning. Your brother will rise again. That, Bakwena, is the gospel message for you. Your husband, your brother and father will rise again. Our friend, our comrade in the faith will rise again. He will rise and live in our hearts and in our minds. Even before the books are published, and documentaries are made. He will rise in the lives of the businesses that he has created. They will be an embodiment of his spirit. He will rise in the lives of the many young people who studied, he had funded, and those he has mentored. He will rise in the ministry and testimonies of Methodist ministers whose training he has continued to fund through the SMMS. Jesus Christ arrived and boldly introduced himself at the grave of Lazarus. I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they may die, Tiego Moseneke, they will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Oh friends, how significant it is that we gather here during the Christian season of Easter. Christians are people of the resurrection. Death does not describe us. It is life that defines who we are and who we follow. Easter is about finding light and hope in the midst of darkness and hopelessness. It is about finding life in the midst of death. Through the Christian understanding and belief in resurrection, Tiego's death becomes, let's borrow from COVID, a new normal. His physical absence does not become the abnormal. It is instead the new normal lived in the power of Christ. Today, Jesus offers that salvation and that restoration of faith and life to the two sisters, Mary and Martha. He presents himself in the context of the death and funeral of their brother, that he is the resurrection. Jesus is the contrast. Jesus is the antithesis of death. Where Jesus, the same Jesus that Tiego followed, presents himself, death gets undermined. Christ is the resurrection power by which we shall rise from our death. It is only by Christ's divine power that we shall rise from whatever death we who are gathered here ourselves find ourselves in. It is Christ's word, it is Christ's touch that must restore us, not only as individuals, not only as mourning and bereaved families, even this country of ours, even this nation of ours, even this revolution of ours that we see sliding in front of us. It will be restored back. South Africa is in many ways a country and a nation that needs a resurrection experience, or what others have come to call the second revolution. It is my deep belief, it is my conviction that whatever death we are in, God will raise us. But God does not act alone. God seeks those who will be instrument of this resurrection, of this renewal, of this restoration project. At the tomb of Lazarus, Jesus invited those who were standing there, just as we are being invited from all sectors of our nation where we are involved, to come to the collective tomb. And there he proclaimed, Jesus stood at Lazarus' tomb and said, Lazarus, come out. And so we stand here and ask that Tiego, please rise up. To some will be an invitation to participate. When Jesus stood at that tomb, he invited those who were gathered there and said, roll away the stone. And he called on others, get into the tomb and untie and unbind him. And so the restoration that I'm talking about is not of people who fold their arms and think that God will come alone without our contribution, our invitation to participate. Our resurrection miracle is anchored in our relationship with the Christ who raises nations. We saw with Rwanda, who raises communities, who raises human beings, institutions, structures, and systems up. It is he who is the resurrected one, from whom we can claim our resurrection and sing with the isiXhosa Methodist singer. Uvukile wena nhloko yabakholwayo, sakuvuka nathi ngoko thina sikholwayo. Because you have risen up, we who associate with you will also rise up. Resurrections is about living life drawn from the resurrected Christ. It is about declaring with Bill Gaither's song, and because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone.
I apologize for that, Dada Muruti. There seems to be a challenge on my right-hand side. I'm not too sure if it's the air or the heat. Sorry? Okay, we'll sort that out. Okay, thank you. Tabiso?
So I kept on preaching and looking, trusting that I have comrades here, and in that corner are other fundis, some of whom report to me. So I kept looking at this. There's no signal. The CIC asked for signal at one funeral. Mama, give us a signal. I looked for a signal, CIC, and there was no signal coming. And I was not sure whether to fast forward to an amen and end here. People are coughing there, and I was seated there as an asthmatic. I have no conspiracy with what is happening. Okay. So, okay. And I've been signaling to two doctors who are seated in front who have gone AWOL and went into politics. Resurrection, it is about living life drawn from the resurrected Christ. It is about declaring with Bill Gaither in that beautiful song. And because he lives, I can face, may you please stick with them, may we please stick with the Mosenekes. If you are coughing and you need, okay, there's plain sinner.
Yes, sorry, apologies. I think the fumes from the kitchen, there seems to be a curry fumes which have come through into the hall. So I do apologize. It's clearly affecting the right side of the hall. Muruti, I'm sorry about that, but I don't think we can just continue with everybody being affected. We've asked for our caterers to just deal with it. But it's the fumes from the kitchen, unfortunately. So if you're being affected, please, if you can move outside. Apologies about that.
Thank you. Reverend Stemela, who's seated here, gives me a signal and say, wrap it up. And I wrap it up. Tiego comes from the liberation spirituality of our generation of activists in the 80s. We like boasting, those of us of the 80s, and we know that there are generations, but our generation of the 80s like claiming that we carried a defiant faith and resistant resurrection. We had a stubborn faith that contradicted and negated and undermined death as a way of saying at funerals of activists who would have died, long live the spirit of so and so. We were in the 80s in this way, internalizing this Christian spirituality of eternity or eternal life. We were defiantly declaring that even in the mortal flesh of the deceased comrade who would have been interred, the spirit and the soul lived perpetually. Long live the spirit of so-and-so was for us a liturgical liberation protest statement. Long live the spirit of Tiego Moseneke. This is the spirit that is the carrier, that is the transmitter of values. And today has been a festival of values. Everybody who stood here, the binding common denominator was values. These are values of an egalitarian society where prosperity is not that of people who hoard and benefit at the expense of the poor and the exploited. Not the prosperity of the American tele-evangelist type or prophets or so-called apostles that benefit only them. Not the prosperity of some of the current crop of the ruling elite, where prosperity is through stealing from the money meant for the poor, or stealing from food nutrition programs. I am advocating here for the spirituality of liberation that Tiego Moseneke shouted, not as a slogan, but a faith conviction and a struggle hope. I think we should evacuate, all of us, and the spirit will work it out.
Okay, Muruti, thank you. Sorry, we have found the problem, but unfortunately, we would need to evacuate, not run. It's just somebody spilled chilies or pepper onto a stove, and it's causing everyone's noses, obviously, to be rushed. It wasn't the food as I thought, but there is a pepper that somebody left. So I think Muruti, if you don't mind, you could lead us off. Unfortunately, we won't be able to stay much longer simply because the pepper has been sprayed into the hall now because of the heat. So I'm going to request the family just to work with us as well so that we then will be able to evacuate the hall, just to be able to clear the air. It's not an emergency, you don't need to be running, but we need to clear the air. So if you could just allow the Bomuruti to lead us out together with the family. It's not the food as I thought, it's a hot plate and somebody had put chilies on it. So yeah, if you could just please bear with us so we can lead Tiego out. Yeah, thank you.
As they lead, I'll pray. Okay. As the pastors are leading us out, I shall share a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus, want to thank you, want to give you all the praise. Thank you for the service that we have had. Thank you for the life of our brother Tiego Moseneke. Lord God, thank you for the family. As we are about to take this journey, as we are about to proceed to his last resting place, we pray, Lord, that you will guide us, that you will go before us, even as you promised that you will go ahead of us. We pray, Lord God Almighty, that you will wipe away all tears, that you will strengthen the people, that you will strengthen his wife, his sons and daughters, that you will strengthen his siblings, that you will strengthen all friends and colleagues, that you will strengthen everyone, Lord my Father, who has been affected. We call upon you, be with us, and be with us in every way, in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
I'll state my case, of which I'm certain I saw it through. Each cap will stand on the highway. More, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew.
If you could please remember that the buses are outside on the left-hand side. The buses are outside on the left-hand side. And just a reminder that the media is not allowed at the graveside. Apologies about the peppers and the heat.
Stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now as tears subside, I find it all.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff. They comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Whoever believes in me, they shall live eternally.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I travel each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway. More, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my
Now we are